Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Talk. It is Saturday, March 12th, 2022. I'm Daniel Blake. Thank you so much for joining me. For those who are listening on their radios and the traditional means, thank you so much. For those listening on the Love 101 FM, Love 101 FM app that you downloaded in the Google Play or the Apple Store, or if you open your browser, love101.org. And for those who are watching live on YouTube and Facebook, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted that you guys join me week in, week out to hear a young man talk about sports. That's pretty special. So I really appreciate it, by the way. Just to let you know, I know sometimes when I leave comments in the live chat on YouTube and Facebook, and even sometimes on the WhatsApp. And sometimes I don't get to it, but I sometimes see it. No, I see it all the time. But because of how the segment going and everything. But I really appreciate it and keep it coming. So you can leave your comments in the live chat on YouTube and Facebook, or you can open your phone, go WhatsApp 876-997-3125. 876-997-3125. I remember the number, but sometimes I like peep over to see if I get it right. But yeah, so 997-3125. We'll be talking about mostly athletes and mental health this week, sports psychology and everything. I'll be talking to Nicholas Powell, who is a sports psychologist here in Jamaica. So you'll get that one after the 1:15 break, and you will hear that live. All right. It was all right. I'll explain it to you when it's played. All right. And remember to continue to listen to Love, promote the show, and everything like that. All right. So my sports bits, as you as you realize, I don't, for those who are watching live, for those who are listening, my my laptop, I don't know what my laptop is. Anyways. But in my sports bits, the West Indies men's team playing right now. They're trying to, I guess, hold on. The match is how much? I don't remember how much I'm 290 something. So that's the final day of the first test that's happening in Antigua. You can Google the scores, or I can do it later and tell you. The West Indies women lost earlier this morning to India. It's their first defeat in the Women's World Cup. The character trials are happening at the National Stadium. So that will decide, who will run for Jamaica at the trials at the Carifta Games, in April. That will be held here at the National Stadium. So some impressive performances so far. So you can read about that in all the sports papers, sports news, all of them things there. Manchester United and Tottenham are playing now at sports time. Cristiano Ronaldo scored a superb goal. So they're leading Tottenham 1-0 in the Premier League. Brentford had beaten Burnley 2-0 earlier. And Liverpool trying to really ramp up their title charge. They beat Brighton 2-0 this morning. So I don't want to say congrats to Liverpool at all. Anyways. But yeah, so those are what I can remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so that means last week I never get to do my monologue because it was International Women's Day, and you never needed to hear from a man on that day. But this week, I guess it's back to regular programming. So it's time to hear my monologue yet again.
Hi, this is David Blake.
This is Hope Blake.
I am Ariel Brown Blake.
I'm here to tell you right now.
It's time for the Danialogue.
The Danialogue.
The Danialogue.
I love it.
Presented by no one.
So, last night at around maybe after 10, my brother, who you just heard in the Danialogue, by the way, him asked me if we can go play tennis at 7:30 in the morning. Now, for those who truly know me, you would know that I am not a morning person. I I hate waking up in the mornings. No, let me not say it like that. I love waking up because God has given me life. Amen. But I prefer to be woken up later than 8 o'clock, if you get what I'm saying. The people who wake up at 5 a.m. to work out, to cook, to get ready for work, all of them things there, you are God's chosen people. Seriously. 5 o'clock? I know someone do have a choice, but 5 o'clock, jeez. I can literally count on my hands how many times in my entire life I've woken at 5. Seriously. Probably like 6s and 7s, but 5, oh my gosh. But anyways, so I'm trying to be more active than usual. So I told my brother, yeah, sure. So remember, to get to somewhere for 7:30, you have to wake up before that. And if you're doing physical activity, me personally, I have to get my body, like my body have to wake up, and my brain have to wake up too. I can't just roll out of the bed 7:15 and go do and start to work out at 7:30, right? So I go and I oversleep. But I go and play, and the sun this morning, oh my gosh, I died. I There are things that I should have done that I really didn't do because it is just too early. It was way too early. Anyways, the point of me telling you all that is you really need to respect athletes. Like, the sacrifice and the commitment that they put in on a daily basis should not be taken for granted. You have the right to criticize them when they perform bad. It's your opinion. But no one can say that an athlete is weak. We'll even talk about that in the conversation with Nicholas Powell later on about athletes, mental fortitude and those things. But there's no way you can say that an athlete is weak. Imagine me, I can't I can't wake up for the first time in years to play tennis in the morning. I do it for recreation, right? These athletes get up every single morning, and not just like track and field athletes. Footballers do it, swimmers do it. Wake up 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and go do some intense training. And then them have to go back and live them regular life. And those like at the very top, like, Shelly Elaine, Serena, LeBron, who else out there? Ronaldo, Messi, all those guys, them at some different levels, but there are some athletes who will never get any recognition, who will never make a major team, who will never represent their country, who do this on a regular basis with little to no financial gain. If you go up to some of the track clubs, you might see some of the superstars there and you're like, yeah, wow. But then you have some other athletes there who are trying to make it, but unfortunately, not everybody will. But them still wake up every single morning. Them still train hard. Them go home. Them try live them life. Maybe them have a little side hustle what them a try do. Maybe them a go school or try get a degree, a diploma, a certification or something. Some of them have to come back in the afternoon to train again, and then them not even have a proper nightlife because them have to go bed early, like 9, 10 o'clock to wake up back at 4. So for those who just think that athletes just get up one day and just run up and down or kick a ball or bat a ball Like, they are super committed to what they do. And there is no way that you can call athletes weak. Trust me. Them, as Donna Chambers says, them dedicated. And it's not easy. Like, I had to psych up myself this morning to go and play tennis for fun. I don't do tennis for a living. I just do it for fun. It's my, like, what, third time playing tennis this year? And it was a struggle for me. Imagine they have to do it because they want to reach certain levels, or they want to just sustain themselves. They just want to survive. So every time you hear somebody say they're an athlete, just show them respect immediately. Not because them not break no world record, not because them not represent them country, not because them on a big name. Respect athletes, yeah? Because them are do it big. Trust me. They are doing it big. The mere fact that they can do that every single day, that's amazing. And I know this isn't sports related, but I really rate everybody who like just gets up, go to work, and stay committed doing that each day, because me not like, if me did I do what una do, especially the people who live in Portmore, I try to beat traffic. I applaud you guys as well. Like, every day that you show commitment to your work, your craft, whatever it is, like, I respect you. And I hope that you show everybody that same respect. All right. All right. So that was my monologue for today. Hope that you enjoyed it. And when we come back, we'll continue our sports discussion here, and we'll be joined by sports psychologist Nicholas Powell.
Connect with data to do whatever you like with the new and improved Digicel Prime Broader bundles. Get lots of data for streaming and sharing, with more data for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and more. In other words, your data can done, even if you have to hotspot a friend or two. Enjoy all your favorite apps on Jamaica's fastest network. Activate a Prime Broader bundle for as low as $175 by dialing *147 from your Digicel phone or in the My Digicel app. Digicel, made in Jamaica.
When me and my brethren did fall out, our restorative justice bring me back together.
My sister and I hadn't spoken in years, but restorative justice healed us.
Mommy and Daddy used to argue almost every day, and restorative justice restores the peace.
The Ministry of Justice has 18 restorative justice centers island-wide, so if you're in a cascas, not take justice in your own hand and end up in a trouble. Call the Restorative Justice Program at 876-908-5527 or email restorative.justice@moj.gov.jm.
Protect what matters most with Benjamins. Let us help you stay safe and prevent the spread of viruses with our Benjamins hand sanitizer, soap, wipes, and rubbing alcohol. Or if you're already under the weather, try our Benjamins Relief line of products. You'll find relief for symptoms such as a cough, cold, fever, or the flu, because we're always in your corner. Benjamins, a trusted name for over a century.
Psychologist, doing great work in the field. Nicholas, thank you so much. All right, welcome back. I am now joined by Nicholas Powell, renowned sports psychologist, doing great work in the field right now. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, indeed, a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Great. So firstly, it's, I guess when you started, it wasn't a very popular thing to do in terms of a job choice. So why did you decide to become a sports psychologist?
That's a good question. And I was, as a lot in the articles, people know that I was a track coach, trained at JC Pastor, and then went on to college on a track scholarship. And I have a degree in psychology and physical education. After graduating from McKendree University, I started working as an assistant track coach at Lincoln University, where I saw our athletes were dominated, especially the girls. We had a dominant team, but unfortunately, when we went to major championship, performance wasn't the way we wanted it to be. Yes, they would be winning, but it was not the level. And I realized that there was another component that was coming into effect, affecting performance. So that's when I went back to school and got my master's in sports and exercise behavior, kinesiology, which is sports and exercise behavior. And I saw the difference, and I realized that if it's unfair for our athletes to work so hard and get to championship, and because of anxiety or the lack of proper mental training, because a lot of coaches understand that there's a mental component, but over the years have not been taught how to train the mental side. So that's kind of how I got into it and have been getting a lot of success and enjoying it.
Yeah, and the success is evident. You've had athletes who have gone to Olympics, World Championships. I know that you've dealt with several national teams, including most recently the Reggae Boys and the Reggae Girls. And you are now, I guess, signed to Puma in a sense. So how did that come about, and how has the experience been so far?
Thank you. It kind of been developing since 2011 when I went to my first World Championship. I had a few athletes who were competing at the World Championships, and I went there to provide support for them. That's the inception of the business. And while there, made some connections with the Puma camp and guys, Judith, and we developed a friendship where in a relationship where she allowed me to be around the team, had the opportunity, because I didn't have much connections. And because of that, she was able to help me meet some vital people in the event of over time. And in 2000, I think the biggest thing was 2016. I was with the Puma camp, and we had some athletes who had a situation who needed support. And I was there to provide the support, and they were able to see me actually in doing the work, and I realized how vital this part was, because they're investing and they're like, hey, if you continue on this path, it's a possibility of us doing some partnership. And when I launched my business full-time, where I'm doing it full-time since January, they're like, you know what? I think this would be a great partnership, and that's how they brought me on. So, and you asked the question. It's been going great since. Very supportive from the Puma camp. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So well, I shouldn't say it's easy, but we know how to train the physical body. So, for example, and if you lift weights, you know that you're going to get stronger. If you hit the ball with the instep, you know that you're going to hit it cleaner. So we know the techniques that we need to do when it comes to the physical. So how does an athlete, a coach, or even psychologist train the mind? Like what techniques are there to train the mind? Because obviously it's not something that is straightforward and not something that everyone can do.
Yeah, good question. So the biggest thing is, a lot of time, most of the time when athletes underperform are getting ready for what they perceive to be major competition, they'll say, I'm nervous, I don't have the confidence to do it. Our job is to come in and reinforce the athletes of what their strengths are. So when they they have more confidence to help them develop the confidence to get to where they need to be. There's a saying that said, "A man who thinks that he can and a man that who think he can't are both right." So if I think I can do something, even if I am successful at it, I'm gonna think it's by luck. And if I think that I can, even if I come up short, I'm gonna try to figure out a way. So my job is to help the athletes to develop the confidence that even though you might not get it right now, doesn't mean you're not on that trajectory to get it what you need to. So it's just providing them with tools, whether it's going to be positive self-talk, whether it's going to be relaxation technique when they start getting nervous, how to calm themselves down, goal setting, because sometimes we set some goals and they're so big that it can scare us because we didn't develop things to help us to achieve those goals, and then we'll get discouraged by it when it looks like things that are not going that way. So we teach the athletes different tools over time, and like I share with a lot of athletes, it's not a band-aid fix. So it's not an overnight thing. It takes time to develop the confidence and the skills in order to, when you need it, to use it. Some people don't need it because they're doing well, but we provide them with the tools that should they need it, they have it right there.
So you mentioned about working with the athletes specifically, and again, when it comes to like that physical aspect, even though everybody's body is different, there is almost a set structure. So everyone basically has the same set of body parts. Whereas I guess mentally, everyone has different characteristics. Everyone's personality is different. So how do you tailor your program to different athletes? Is that difficult, or do you have like a strong base that you can say, all right, I can just tweak it a little here and a little there?
Good question. There's an assessment that I do with my clients that even though if we're starting from the beginning of the year, they complete the assessment and it tells me the areas that they are strongest in, because we want to keep reinforcing those. And then the areas that they need some improvement, if you notice I didn't say weakness, the areas that need improvement, then we start working from them. For some athletes, they have strong goal setting. When it comes to anxiety, they know how to cope with it. So I'm going to provide them with more tools, but we're going to spend more time on the areas that they need more development with. So it is based on the assessment. Everybody program is tailored for them based on the feedback from the assessment and the conversations we have. And because of my background from GC Foster as a track coach and from Lincoln and as a former athlete, I can relate to a lot of it. And as a Jamaican, I can relate to some of the things that you know might not be said, but we know is an issue when it comes to competition. So that is how I think, because I'm able to tailor it, we get better results that way.
So athletes, again, we know that athletes and teams generally, they have high medical bills because the recovery process is essential. So when it comes to the psychological part, the mental part of it, how, I guess if you could estimate, like how costly is it to get involved or to get a sports psychologist? Because I guess it's a bit different from a doctor's visit, because you're actually doing a whole lot of things. You're actually, rehabbing, doing all those things at the same time. So how costly is that?
It can be very costly, to be honest, which is why I appreciate Puma for providing this, doing this partnership, because for the Puma clients, Puma takes care of that. This is an added service for them. And it includes some of the junior athletes also. So we can start teaching these principles at an earlier phase. There's ways we can negotiate costs, especially for the clients who do not have contracts. We can negotiate costs, and and work things out. But it can be costly, but it is vital because you can invest a lot of money in gears, equipment, proper physio, and when you go to the meet, because of whatever situation, it throw you off. Now you're not able to perform the way you want it to perform. You want to perform. So it's something that it's important to invest in. And if there's something that we're able to work out, then by all means, definitely reach out.
You speak about investment, and we know that the government and some corporate companies will help to, foot those medical bills or those health insurance, but not necessarily for, the mental side. Do you think that there should be more funding given to sports psychologists in general? Because even though the stigma is sort of decreasing, it seems like it's not taken up widely, especially by the higher body. So do you think that there needs to be more in terms of funding and education and those things?
I definitely think it's important. When we go to an international meet and we check with the other teams are having 2 and 3 sports psychologists just for track and field alone.
Wow.
Not to mention the other sports, because they understand the importance of it. When we set a goal to say we're going to train, life happens in between you setting that goal and the time for you to perform at that level. And if you don't have something and don't have the proper mental skills to cope with it, it don't matter how well you're doing in training. If you don't have the mental skills to help you cope with it, all that investment got to waste. You understand? So if we can get the governing bodies to assist with the athletes, because the coaches are buying into it now. The athletes are buying into it, the coaches are buying into it. Some of them can't afford it. So if we can get the governing bodies to assist, provide funding for that, to help them do that, we would see a lot more consistency in our performances with our athletes. Because we have athletes who come through the high school system who are dominant, and when they get to the next level, because they don't have all the support, they underperform because of whatever reason. That is what myself and Puma have been working to minimize that gap so they can make a smoother transition to perform at the next level.
You spoke about dominant athletes, and I remember reading an article where you said one of the reasons why you want to help athletes is because of Asafa Powell. He was a world record holder, fastest man alive. He was dominating these meets. I spoke with him and he had his own explanation. But just from your perspective, this is someone who goes into the final of the Olympics, the World Championships, knowing that he is the world's fastest man. He does have all these stats. The stats don't lie. So how is it that, the anxiety or the pressure gets the best of him? Because he seems like someone who has those statistics and those records would be very confident going into a final, much more than the others who might see him and say, boy, how am I going to beat this man? So how, just in your estimation, how was he not able to get over that hump many times?
I've been asked this question many times, and to be fair to Asafa, I don't know what were the issues or the reasons behind his performance at the highest level. I knew that that's my favorite athlete, and I saw where there were times when he wasn't performing the way we all wanted him to. So that is one of the biggest reasons. So people ask me, once they hear I'm a sports psychologist, what happened to Asafa? I don't know. We have never sat down and had that conversation. So it's unfair for me to speak on it. But there are times when athletes underperform because something in their thought process at that level caused them to question whether they were fully prepared or they got distracted for some reason. And if you're not properly mentally trained to perform, then something can happen in that situation. Again, I don't know what happened in his case, but this is what I've seen with a lot of the professional athletes and our athletes. So one of my goals is to help them prepare that regardless of what happens to them, your objective is to stay focused and teach them skills on how to stay focused.
Speaking of that, when an athlete is, him feels something in groin or her groin or in the calf or something, they know that something is off. Whereas we hear a lot of athletes, especially nowadays, when they talk about that they were essentially going through the motions, and it was only until they actually saw a psychologist that they realized that they were either depressed or they were super anxious. We've seen it in most recently with Naomi Osaka, Kevin Love, and DeMar DeRozan in the NBA spoke about it as well. So how does an athlete or a coach know when something is off mentally? Because I guess everybody, when you train and you do these things over and over, how do you differentiate from, you being either bored, stressed out, or just in that state of depression that you feel like you can't get out of? Like how do you know when that something is really off?
And that's a really good question. The thing that I work with coaches is to help them to pay attention, to learn their athletes. The more I understand my athletes as a coach, is the more I'm able to identify when they're not acting, because they're going to give you different response. The way in which they speak, they might have a higher pitch voice, or the pacing every minute before major competition. They go into bathroom a lot. There are some things that we call biofeedback, where we watch and see their function. If this is not how they operate when they're in practice developing, and I see things, if I have a great enough relationship, I'm able to check in with them to help calm. Instead of when we were running track back in our days in high school and even at GC for stuff, and before the meet, the coach said, hey, go and go focus here on your event. Go relax and think about your event. Or go relax. What does that mean? If I don't know how to relax, if you have never taught me how to relax, I'm going to try my best, but those thoughts keep going in my head and that can throw me out. So our job is to work with the coaches, is to help them to develop a relationship, work with the coach and the athletes to develop a level of communication where if the athlete is feeling a little bit nervous, how to identify it. If the athlete is feeling nervous, how do they communicate that with the coach? And then what the coach says to the athlete, because sometimes an athlete can be mentally prepared and the coach comes to them and say, hey, we need you for beat such and such in a lane 5, Just make sure you beat, and then put unnecessary pressure on the athlete. So my job as a mental coach is not just working with the athletes, but also working with the coaches to help them and parents to help them to make sure that they're providing the right support and not putting unnecessary pressure on the athlete and causing them to underperform.
So sports, as we found out during the pandemic, is not as thrilling without fans as it is with fans. And we know that fans are some of the harshest critics. There are many athletes who use it as fuel. LeBron James, in his show recently, said that before a game starts, when he feels down, he just wants to hear a LeBron hate comment, and then he picks himself up and raises his level. Whereas there are some athletes who genuinely break down. To me, I guess I don't see much of a difference in terms of confidence between this athlete or that athlete. So why can some block out the noise or use the noise as fuel and to perform better, and why do some essentially crumble under that criticism from the fans?
There are times when there are athletes who, as you said, their objective, their focus is the crowd, impressing the crowd. That's what drives them. The awards, the gold medal, the win. And then some people who are intrinsically motivated. It doesn't matter what's going on around me because I know what drives me. I don't need the external source to get me hyped up. Kobe Bryant was one of them. When they say something negative about him, like, you don't realize that fueled me, because my job is not to prove to you that I am gonna dominate. My job is to prove to me how well I'll dominate. So there are athletes who their motivation is different. So when I mean, my job is to identify what drives them and encourage that, but also help them to develop an internal, intrinsic motivation. So regardless if they're not getting it from the external source, the internal fire keep going. Because during the pandemic, when they didn't have meets and all that, a lot of athletes got depressed because they're not able to do what they want to do. But when we're working from an internal source and the fire is driving from within, it doesn't matter. It's just a delay. That's a delay, not something that stopped them. And it's like, okay, and it's just one more obstacle for me to get over. And the people who are more internally driven showed up when the competitions started. Because when we know people who perform at the highest is not the people who are best prepared, or the fastest. It's the people who are best prepared, mentally and physically. So yeah.
So I don't want to bring myself into this, but
bring yourself in, man.
No, years ago, I think it was 2013, I broke my wrist during a football match, right? And the rehab process was so difficult. Like I had to push myself, and bear in mind, the rehab process was just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was extremely difficult for me, but because I knew that I wanted to essentially go back to my regular life, I knew that I had to do it. Whereas athletes who suffer these long-term injuries, and then especially when you're playing like team sports, seeing your teammates play every day, train every day, and you're on the sidelines in your house, lock up, and all these thoughts are running through your mind. What kind of techniques do you give to athletes in those rehab processes? Because it's obviously a long and essentially a lonely road. Yeah,
that's a good question. I get asked a lot with especially with injuries. When an athlete gets injured, when the athletes start following their path, set their goals to follow their path, it's like you traveled from Kingston to Orchard, right? You know the GPS, the route that you're gonna take, and you have a detour like an injury. It doesn't stop you from still going after your goal. You just have to do some things different. If you don't have the right mental support and the right guidance, you may see it as a long journey and look like we're not gonna get back and all of that, and that can be discouraging. My job coming to help the athlete develop a new plan of, because you had to go to St. Catherine. Now, how do we navigate from St. Catherine to still go to Ochi? We now go back to Kingston for go Ochi. We are navigate now from St. Catherine, and what is the best route to get there as fast as possible? So it might mean make sure that you're getting the proper treatment. That if you can't afford it, what resources are out there, and not just sit at home and say, okay, I'm just gonna chill. I have a client who recently had an injury, and he didn't want to go to the doctor to find out how bad the injury is because he's afraid of what the doctor may say. Sometimes we might need to go find out what it is so we can be more confident in how to move forward. Because if you wait too long to get the necessary treatment, and then later on find out that it is worse, then it holds you back longer. But when you go and get the assessment, then I know, okay, it'll take ballpark 3 weeks with the necessary activities, so I know how to address it. So my job is to help the athletes when they get rerouted detour is to help them recreate a mission, a goal, so they can feel confident moving in the direction of achieving that goal. So you knew you wanted to get back to that life, so you know rehab, I have to go to rehab 3 days a week. Even if I can only afford 2 days a week, I'm going to make sure I pay attention to the exercises that I can do when I'm at home to reinforce it, because me getting back to normalcy is important to me. And because it's important to me, so I can get back out here and help my team and perform at the level I'm supposed to, it's easier for me.
So we are moving into we are in the champ season, and just around the corner, so is the character games. But in terms of junior athletes over the years, we've seen them set champs alike, character alike, but when it comes to that senior level, it doesn't get there. Over the years, they've posed the overwork argument. Maybe they worked too hard in high school. Some have posed that maybe they just lost interest. But do you think that maybe the mental aspect is what they're lacking when they get to that senior stage, knowing that maybe when they were in high school, they were seen as these superstars at their schools, but when they leave the schools now, they don't feel like that type of importance anymore? Do you think that maybe these governing bodies need to look at the mental side of these young, promising athletes as a reason to why they don't excel as much as we thought they would?
Yeah. A big part of that is in the high school, especially when they're performing well, they have a lot of support. When you transition, a lot of that support leaves. Even though you might get a contract or whatever, now a lot of stuff is your responsibility. It's your job to pay the agent, your job to pay the coaches, it's your job to make sure that you get to the practice. There's nobody, everybody looking to you. So it add more pressure. And if you're not mentally prepared to deal with that pressure at that level, we'll find a lot of athletes underperform. They'll have all the necessary resources, but because they were not taught how to manage it, because I had somebody doing something for me, I get carried away with it. So the mental side is important to help people make transition, even athletes who are transitioning out of sports. Some people don't know because they have seen themselves as an athlete for years. So that is why the mental coach, the sports psychologist, the consultant is vital during those times, is to provide them with those skills. Like right now, me working with the junior athletes is providing them with skills that will help them to transition to the next level. So when they get to that point, because they know how to set goals, because they know how to be more intrinsically motivated here and block out the distraction, they're able to cope. The intention is for them to be able to cope better, making that transition. So when they're at that level, give you an example. If you see the weights on the squat bar and you say 5 plates, and you can only lift 2 plates, and you must say try it. When you go on that, you're going to muscle up a try lift, right? Because you say, yo, me have to really tense up. So the athlete who transition from the high school to pro, they think, no, I got to come out harder. And it's more work, so they put more pressure on themselves. When all you have to do is just go on there and be relaxed, concentrate on your lifting technique, concentrate on what you need to do. Because at that level, it's the same thing. I've been putting in hard work. It's not about me now having to work harder. I have to be disciplined, but if I was disciplined in high school and transition the same level of discipline, the rest take care of itself. In order to run faster, you don't run harder. What you do, you get stronger and improve your technique, and that's how you run faster. But if I think I need to run harder, I tense up, rigid muscles move slow. Some I run slow, and I wonder why I not run fast. So now I start overstride, I'm start doing a whole lot of stuff that caused me to get injured and then it look like, yo, it just not happened for me. No, that's not the case because you have put too much pressure on yourself, both physically and mentally. So our job is to come in, help the athletes to develop the confidence that you have what it takes to perform at next level. Let's work on some things, keep setting your goals, keep working on these because you have the coach that will help you to get there. You just have to keep giving me 100%, not 110%, not 95. Give me 100, give me your best, and I promise you, you're going to growth.
Yeah, so you have given a lot of great information so far, but you're just a handful of sports psychologists in Jamaica. So what would you say to encourage someone, whether in high school, university, or even, just adults in general, what would you say to them to encourage them to pick up sports psychology as an occupation?
The thing, we keep saying sports psychology. What I do is performance psychology. So anybody who is trying to take their performance to the next level, whether it's in the job, in the corporate or wherever, performance is performance, and we can always get better. So somebody who hear this segment and interested, go find out what is sports psychology, how it can help, because it can help at all different levels. Anybody who is trying to take their performance to the next level, we can help them to get to work, develop the tools to work towards it. So check it out. It helps when you. One of my joys when I'm talking to an athlete and you see the light bulb go off. They're like, yo, and then they're like, I can't get ready. I can't wait for go compete. And then they go and compete and they see the result and they come back. And I'm sitting back like, yeah, I already told you. Like, because you see it. Yeah. But some of the time we want to tell them. I had to learn not to just tell them what to do, but help them develop it. Because people who are always told what to do tend to not know how to think for themselves when they're in certain situations. So I as a mental coach, I work with my athletes to develop their ideas. Because when you develop the plan and it's not somebody tell you to do it, you feel more confident going into it. And that makes a world of difference when you know it's not what Nick tell me to do, but it's what we develop to do. And I believe in what I'm doing, then I'm seeing results. Yeah.
Great. Just before I let you go, Jamaica College and Stats, they play in a Manning Cup final. Who are you cheering for? And you have to choose one.
You're going to enjoy, but you don't know my bleed blue. My bleed blue did 5 years at JC and developed my track career at Stats. So I played field hockey at JC, developed my track career at Stats. So both of them near and dear to my heart. But you don't bleed blue after 5 years, you know. But the last 2 times when they played, I just sat back and enjoyed the game. Be present as an outside, trying to take myself out and cheer for performance and not necessarily the team, but bleed blue and them know that. Yeah.
All right, Nicholas. Thank you so much. Really appreciated this conversation, and wish you all the best in your work and in every single thing you do, and continue to make a difference in not only athletes' lives but people's lives in general. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to promote the importance of mental coaching, sports psychology. The Mind Game is always here to provide support. And if somebody needs to find me, they can follow me on Instagram. It's a Mind Game. I'm also on Facebook, Nicholas R. Powell, on LinkedIn, Nicholas R. Powell. And whenever you need me to come back to shed light, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much.
Certainly will. All right, Nicholas. Thanks again. All right, so that was Nicholas Powell, a renowned sports psychologist, really delving into a lot of the athlete psyche, all the things that, a psychologist does to help an athlete, why it's necessary for athletes and even coaches. A very very great discussion, and you know, we truly hope that um, associations, teams, even the government will take it more seriously, because we really want all our athletes to perform at a peak level, and not just focus on the physical part. All right, have to take a quick break, but when we come back, more sports talk.
The Ministry of Justice offers free counseling to victims of crime. Call 876-946-0663. The time by the Ministry of Justice is...
It's 8 minutes before 2 o'clock.
I did a crazy attack. You see me, me's a real G, real go-getter. My life move non-stop. So me have to stay linked and floor yard and road. And my connect. And one plan link me up at home with Wi-Fi and on my mobile. With data and calls to any network. At my yard, non-stop streaming my vibes. Or studying for my pitney them. And out the road, and non-stop vibes. Same way. Flow connect me non-stop for as little as $3,999 a month. Plus GCT. I forget it. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
The following is a message from the Ministry of Tourism.
Without a doubt, tourism is Jamaica's #1 industry, and our dedicated workers are its greatest asset. Jamaica would not be the heartbeat of the world without you. As the industry rebounds from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, we truly need all hands on deck, yours included. Vaccination holds the hope for tourism's full recovery. In addition to COVID-19 protocols, it is the only comprehensive way to fight the pandemic and save lives. I am therefore urging every worker in the tourism and hospitality industry, in all the subsectors, including accommodation, attraction, entertainment, transportation, and craft, to do your part and get vaccinated. Do it for yourself, your family, your workplace, and your community. Do it for Jamaica, land we love. Stay safe. Get vaccinated.
The preceding message was brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism.
Jamaica, taste it all. Yeah, well crispy fried chicken, please.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
2 orders of spicy jerk pork.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Give me some cheesy patties.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Hey, can I get extra curry gravy?
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Make me some fried escovitch fish.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Taste it all. Yeah, with Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Welcome back to Sports Talk. We have less than 5 minutes, for a good reason. Definitely had a great conversation with Nicholas Powell there. So I really wanted to play the full version of what is going on with Chelsea, English Premier League club, current Champions League winners, or reigning champions, I should say. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to play the full thing because we don't have time. But essentially, what has been happening for those who have not been fully keeping up. So, everybody knows what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. You might be watching the news and seeing a lot of the reports about, government sanctioning Russia in general, Russian businesses and those things. So the UK government this week sanctioned Roman Abramovich, who is the owner of Chelsea Football Club, because he reportedly has ties to Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Now, this is a bit difficult to really analyze and to sort of look at objectively, because I guess you can say, just like many of the other Russian teams, sports, and even in just regular Russian businesses who may not be for what's going on right now, Chelsea are currently suffering because one, most of their assets, I believe, have been frozen. There was reports that their credit cards were also frozen, so they couldn't even fill up the team bus with gas. They are not allowed to sell tickets, I believe. So if you're a current season ticket holder, you're able to continue to watch games. But if I say I want to go and watch a Chelsea match tomorrow, I won't be able to buy a ticket from Chelsea's office because they are no longer allowed to sell tickets. They've already, I believe, lost one of their major sponsorship in 3 Mobile, which is actually one of their kit sponsor. I mean, their 3 is on their kit, and they asked Chelsea to remove it and their suspension of the sponsorship. So right now, because of all those sanctions, the Russian government is also expected, I believe, to take charge in selling Chelsea. So essentially, Roman Abramovich won't even make a profit from it because of the sanctions. And I get it. This is a way to put pressure on the Russian government, Putin, everything, to basically stop what's going on. And I'm all for peace. I think everybody is, to be very fair. But at the same time, I don't really like that it's affecting sports the way it is. Like, I don't mind if Chelsea get relegated tomorrow by the normal way, like if they play badly and get relegated, or if their finances end up blowing up because the players that they bought didn't do well, those type of things. But it, and that's why I say it's kind of tricky to talk about, because I mean, what's happening to them now is not based off sporting merit. So this is probably the one time in life that I'll have some sympathy for Chelsea fans and for Chelsea Football Club in general, because it's not the most ideal situation. But hopefully next week I'll be able to provide some updates as to what's going on. Remember, you can keep up on your own by looking at the sports websites, the sports broadcasts, and everything. But unfortunately, I'm out of time. Such a great show today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's show. As usual, I'll be back next week. I believe next week I'll be actually on air at midday. So I'll be right out when the sun is out as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Join me again next week, and please enjoy your weekend and stay safe.